you know what I mean? Next thing you just gotta put it together. Say, hey, we doing a Cinco de Mayo at the office. People pop in, might gonna put the bill, whatever you want.
Let's go! What's going on, people? Welcome to another Create Your New Life. I am your host, broker, CEO, Brooks and James Real Estate Firm. Excited about coming on once again. Once again. How is everybody doing? Oh man, I'm excited. Let me mute Margaret since she messing up my introduction. But what's going on, people? Very excited to be here on another Tuesday. It's Tuesday, May the 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you. So what's going on? Again, we are excited to be here. Let me get rid of that thing. Get that out the way. My cursor just been tripping. There we go. All right. Got a couple of events coming up, so we're going to showcase that on the monitor. But today, we needed to do a part 2 of our chapter 10 of our Never Split the Difference. So we had to come back to finish it up because it was so deep. It was too deep for us. So we had to break it up into 2 sessions. Where my notes at, man? I'm looking for my notes, people. Where my notes? What's up, Margaret? Margaret in the building.
Hello.
I had to mute you because you talking all through my intro. Got people coming all in the intro. I can't hear what you just talking through it. I just had to completely mute you. So so what's going on? Tell the people what's up.
Hi, people. What's up?
Absolutely. All right, so you ready to finish it up today, Margaret? There you go. I say, you ready to finish this thing up today?
Yes, I am ready.
All right, that's what we're going to do. All right, so just to give everybody a heads up of how this thing works, first of all, I want to say thank you for showing up today. Whether somebody text messaged you the link to the video or whether you're checking it out on our YouTube channel, we want to say welcome and thank you for giving us your attention and joining us with this edition. And you're going to get an opportunity, if you do hear some things that you really stands out to you as far as your real estate career, and you need to get connected to an organization that's going to develop you as far as you making more money in real estate, then you're going to get that opportunity to do so. Margaret knows this. At any point, she can stop and engage, ask questions. You know, I'll probably pull her in if I have questions, but the trainings are not just meant for me to be blabbing, but I will blab if that is what the people want. I will blab to them. All right, so let's jump into, where everybody can follow us or how they can engage with us on social media. So we do have a Brooks and Davis YouTube account. We are on Facebook. Following one of the events that's behind me is our Tough Times Through Mastermind, which is something that we do on Tuesdays, or we shoot on Tuesdays at 2:30. I would love for you all to be a part of the discussion. Today we're going to be talking about, now like if you're watching it later, then we would have talked about it already. But I might as well just throw the topic out there. It just gives you an idea of what the kinds of things that we discuss. But we are going to be talking about how sellers can still sell their house in uncertain times. So we do that on our Facebook business page, but I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. And this week I'm actually launching my TikTok account. So you can now follow me on TikTok, real easy to remember, at MG Davis CEO. That's what I am on TikTok. And if you really want to get a view of my personal life and what I do when I'm not coaching or being the CEO or not working, then you definitely need to follow me on TikTok, because you will see that other side of Michael G. Davis, the CEO. All right, so we got that going. Again, I spoke earlier, we were going to talk about an opportunity for you to schedule an online or in-person appointment to learn more about the better options that we offer as a brokerage firm. So that is the link that you can go to schedule that introduction. We'd love to talk to you more. Again, if you see that we can fill a void or a gap in where your business is right now. Also, we offer CE credit. So just like Margaret, she set herself up to be able to get this hour of CE credit or continuing education credit, elective credit. But just by doing those 4 items, our agents are able to not, when it's come time to renew, like it's time for me to renew, I got to renew now, right? Through our providership, we're able to offer elective credit. So unfortunately, you know, I can get 4 hours through Create Your New Life, but because I'm a broker, you know, I got to do broker responsibility and some of these others. But if you don't have to do broker responsibility, you can actually knock out 8 of your elective hours just by attending the Create Your New Life if you're a Brooks & Davis agent. So that's something that we are very proud of to be able to offer to our agents. All right. So those are the areas to follow us. Today we're going to be talking about, like I said, we're going to continue that conversation of how to find out the critically important details in the negotiation that you don't know, those unknown unknowns. So I just called this episode 135.5. So it's right in between 135 and 136. It's 0.5. So it's still a 10-part series. It just has 11 episodes. That's all I'm saying. And it's really not a full episode. It's like a half episode. That's why I put 0.5. I know my rationale. It's interesting, but it made sense to me when I did it. So today's going to be part 2 of that conversation. We're going to continue that conversation. We're also going to look at why it's important or why we feel that Brooks & Davis is important to never stop learning. We're also going to talk about one of our proprietary programs that deals with distributing leads to our agents. Yes, we do give leads. And then we're going to, we have our event coming up, Margaret. Margaret, next, what is that, the 12th, 7 days from now. We are going to go live with the discussion. So I put a link in the description for people to go and reserve their seat. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we begin really pushing and promoting it over these next 7 days to get as many people as possible to log on at 7 o'clock come May 12th. So we're very excited about that. All right, the quote that is attached for today's session, the quote is, how can you know what you're capable of if you don't embrace the unknown? I mean, how can you know, right? How can you know what you're built? How can you know what you're made of, right? I recall a speech that Steve Harvey did that talked about jumping a cliff. And what he said was, you know, how will you know if you can ever fly if you never jump off the cliff, right? And it's profound. That's what this is really all about. That's what, you know, our series with Never Split the Difference, you know, that's what this stuff is all about. Like, how will you ever know how good or how competent you are in negotiations as far as growing your business, building your business? How will you ever know that unless you first take that leap of getting into the unknown? And I know why we don't do it, because it's scary. We don't like being in scary places and scary situations. So we 100% understand why we play it safe, right? But again, like the quote says, and this quote was from Esmeralda Santiago, I believe is a songwriter, an author, and this is where this quote came from. You know, how can you know what you're capable of if you don't embrace, not just go through it, but if you don't embrace the unknown, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our moment in core. That's where we spend about 60 seconds just really looking at something that speaks volumes to us at Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm. Our core ideology is made up of 3 components. One of them is our big, hairy, audacious goal. The other one is our core mission. And then we have our 5 core values. So we're going to look at the value that we're going to highlight today is continually learning, improving, and operating in the most productive manner, right? And, you know, if I had to sum all of that up in one word, it's about our commitment to growth. You got to position yourself to where you're constantly growing, because if you're not growing, guess what? You're dying. There's no such thing as being stagnant in nature. And as human beings, we are a part of nature. So it doesn't exist. So if you're not growing, you're dying. So that's why Brooks and Davis, we understand that if we're going to achieve our goal, if we're going to achieve our mission, then we know it's going to require a commitment to, on an everyday basis, to learn, to improve, and when it comes to us scrutinizing the way that we operate, making sure that we're always operating in the most productive manner. So that's why that is one of the core key areas and goals of our ideology, one of our values, right? All right, so with that being said, I want to give a shout out. We got a couple of new members of the family. One of them is Devonna Hogan. She signed up as a new agent on last week. So we definitely want to welcome Devonna to the family. Give her a big shout out for jumping on to the team. We also want to give a shout out to Mia Robinson. She is a new affiliate that just signed up with us. So we're excited for her journey, to get her going. You know, again, with our affiliate members, these are individuals that have not yet passed their license. Have not yet taken the test or passed the test. They haven't got their license. So they're in different areas of starting, you know, signing up for their first real estate class to passing the test. So they're all in between. They're all in between there. And through our affiliate program and membership, they're able to get into an association, into an empowering environment that's going to expose them to the everyday workings of a realtor, as well as connect them with leaders, organizational leaders that's going to coach them through passing that exam. So we're excited to have Devonna again. Devonna Hogan is coming in as an agent. Excited for her to be here. And Mia Robinson's our newest affiliate that's coming on board as well. So welcome, ladies. Welcome to the party. All right, let's jump into what is, let's jump into our production for the week. So right now we're at 2.1. Got about $71,000 worth of commission to be paid out. So let's go. Had some people close on some transactions. A number of people closed on transactions last week. So last week was a pretty solid week as far as people getting paid. But again, last week is last week. That's in the past. We got to make sure that we're always adding stuff to the pipeline, putting stuff in escrow. So right now we're about 2.1 mil as far as in our pipeline. Our top three right now are LaKendra Kaufman, Sydney Ely, and Roy Moses. So again, Roy added something to the board and knocked him into the top three. That's how the thing works. So Roy is now representing for the fellas, because for so many weeks, fellas didn't have no representation. So Roy, appreciate you coming in and representing for us. So that's what we have going. Again, our focus is to get to a point to where we're hovering around 5 mil at any given moment, because, hey, why not have a goal? Why not have something to shoot for? Especially since we're always continually learning, improving, and operating in the most productive manner. If we're going to do that, then we should be able to realize and see the results. So that's what we're shooting for today. All right, let's see. Boom, proprietary programming. So, you know, today's proprietary program that we want to look at is, again, was voted top 5 across the organization as far as a valuable programming, and it has to do with our digital lead generation system powered by Trello. So this is the way that we distribute our leads to our agents and give opportunity to look, get your feet wet. Now, you know, what I tell people is that we don't hang our hat on the fact that we give leads, right? Although it is the thing that everybody seems to ask or really care about, if they don't know no better, is do y'all give leads? Or you know, can I get leads if I join a brokerage firm? And the reality is this: nobody's giving away grade A leads. I don't care what they tell you, right? If it's a grade A lead, meaning that it's a warm lead, the rapport's already been built, it's a slam dunk, nobody's giving that away, right? Or nobody's going to give that, especially to somebody that's brand new, that's not proven, because they don't want to risk losing the business. So it's not happening. So we've never built our business around being the best at giving out leads and giving out the best leads, right? We built our business around developing you and coaching you to a point to where you know how to generate grade A leads, right? Because those were us putting you in that position is what's setting you up. So, but because even with that being said, there is opportunity that we get access to leads. We created a system to where we could provide those leads to our agents on a consistent basis for them to follow up. And that's what this is. Now, this is what I encourage our agents, this is how I encourage our agents to use this tool. Not necessarily, I say use this tool to practice. Practice conversion, right? Because even if you become a great lead generator, if you don't know how to convert a phone call to an appointment, you don't know how to properly qualify a lead to determine if it's worth setting up an appointment, if you haven't identified your buckets that people need to go in based off of how you diagnose this situation, if you don't know how to do or you haven't done enough of that, then this is a great training ground for you to practice and become more skilled and better at that. Because the leads that are in this digital lead generation system, they are cold leads. They are internet leads. They are people, I mean, although we know that they're in the market, you still have to build rapport. So it helps you with all these different areas of building rapport, of pre-qualifying, diagnosing, making people feel comfortable over the phone, and getting to the point to where you can convert to appointments. Well, I'd rather you practice on these leads that were given to you versus you put in all the work, all the effort, all the energy, you go and you generate the lead and then you fumble it because you don't know how to convert. So that's what these leads are all about, and why we encourage our agents to engage them. So as you can see, all the agent has to do, once you sign on with Brooks & Davis, they get access to this Trello board, and there's a column of first call. So as you can see, you know, our agents aren't calling. We don't have a whole bunch of agents calling on leads, right? So they're here. You know, there are referral fees associated with some of these leads. So that's another reason why I would say they're not grade A, because even with you having to do all the work, build a report, do all of that, you get them to the closing table, and then you still got to give 25% of your commission away. So again, they are great for practicing on your lead conversion to make you a better lead converter when you get after you've generated leads. So there's the first call column, there's the keep call column, and then there's the assigned leads column. We also have in here investor leads. So if you have a great investment property, then clearly our agents can go in here and they can engage the people that are on this list by calling them and letting them know, hey, I got this investment property. Are you interested? And then we also have Spanish leads. So for our agents that are Spanish speaking, they have access to these kind of leads as well. So I think that, you know, that program is a phenomenal program to offer to our agents, as long as we keep it in perspective for the best way to utilize them. And again, that's through, like I said earlier, through practicing to become a better converter. So once you do put in the energy and effort and you generate that lead, that you don't fumble it because you haven't been well trained. We'll say well trained on lead conversion. Okay. All right. So we want to, there's a couple of events that we want to reiterate. We talked a little bit about it earlier. But we are having our mastermind through tough times. We do those on Tuesdays at 2:30. We've now implemented to where we're going to be doing raffles So if you share the live, then your name will be placed in the hat for a raffle for the following week for a great item. Margaret is donating these great items. Margaret, you want to tell the people a little bit about the great items that people are able to win if they attend the discussions that we're doing on 2:30? You want to do that?
Sure. Today we're going to raffle off another set of satin hands. Now, satin hands is the luxurious Mary Kay brand of products for your hands. So what it does is going to protect with an extra rich, extra soft and emollient cream. And it's going to give you a good scrub of those dead skin cells with a really nice smelling and fresh scent sugar scrub. And then we go in for the moisture. And then it's a rich shea moisture lotion that will help keep those hands protected. So that is going to be a raffle again for this week. So I'll see if I can come up with something different next week. But I think the satin hands are really hitting right now since we all washing our hands like crazy. So there you go, another satin hand set. Hope y'all win, like, share, and comment.
Absolutely. And how, like, thus far, Margaret, what's your take on these discussions that we're having every week about masterminding through tough times?
I think they're very beneficial. If I had something like this when I was going through those 2008 tough times, I would have been less anxious. I probably wouldn't have gotten a little part-time job if I would have known some of these tips that we've been giving out and that we've been talking about. I didn't know how to recognize when things were changing, and I didn't know what to do when they did change. So I was more paralyzed, like just stuck. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I need to pay some bills, so I'm going to go get me a job. So if I would have known some of these things then, I probably wouldn't have had to do that. So we're going over practical tips, practical ideas for us to use to sustain ourselves during this time. And it's a real good back and forth with everybody, getting all kinds of good tips, strategies. I think it's worth a shot. Check it out. Like, comment, and share.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's real convenient for them because they ain't got to go nowhere. All they got to do is like our Facebook business page, and they'll get notified. And turn their phone on, and boom, they're immediately thrust into the discussion. So they get these tips and these insights that they can use. Boom, right in there. And look, Margaret, I had to get a part-time job too during 2009. So it wasn't just you. It wasn't just you. I know, right? But I promise you, it ain't happening. Look, it ain't happening. Look, it ain't happening no more. It was a learning experience. we learned from it. We learned from it. All right, so we got that going on. And then we also have the discussion, which is May 12th. I'm extremely excited about that. We've worked through the kinks, so it's going to be a phenomenal event, 7 days away. So at this point, we're going to push it for the next week or so. Reserve your seat. You do not want to miss it. It's a great spin on home buying process. Being on debt elimination and protecting your legacy through life insurance. It's going to be a very entertaining presentation, and you'll have a right now solution to whatever your situation is financially in one of those three areas. You'll have a right now solution that you can take advantage of to help move you to the next step in your life. As far as achieving whatever result that you want in one of those three areas. So again, it's another one of those. All you have to do is go to the link, and as you go to the link, you'll be able to get the login information to where you can chime in. You'll get the password. You'll be able to come in, and you'll be able to meet with our experts when it comes to those fields. So again, that's coming up next week. So 7 days from today, next Tuesday at 7 p.m. It is a live webinar. And so go ahead now and go to the link and reserve your seat. All right, so now let's go ahead and jump into our book, baby. Our book. So we got this session and one more session to recap, and then we're going to be done. We're going to be done with our 10-part series of Never Split the Difference. On to the next series, and our next series is all about social media, right? The whole point of our next series is to turn you into a social media beast, right? So we got a playbook. Yeah, we got a play. Margaret says she needs that. We all need it, Margaret. Don't worry about it. We all need it. That's why we're doing it. But so next week is going to give. We got our hands on some secret information from one of the proven social media savants. I'll say that. We got some secret information that we're going to dig in on for our next series. So we're all going to become phenomenal social media marketers. Amen. Sister, let's do it. All right. So that's what's coming up. But not to get ahead of ourselves, let's go ahead and wrap up this powerful, powerful time that we've spent with going through Never Split the Difference. So right now we're finishing up chapter 10. It's the last chapter in the book is where we are right now. And we've discussed so many things when it came to. But again, since I know we're doing a recap next week, I'm not gonna jump into there. I'm gonna jump right into where we left off last week. And remember, finding the black swan is a black swan is an unknown, like something that's a part of the negotiation that you don't know exists, right? And when found out, when that key item is found out, it will dramatically change the trajectory of where the negotiation is going. So when we talk about skill and becoming more skilled in negotiations, this is where the skill is best utilized. It's through being able to identify and become aware of these unknown items or areas that can be used as leverage. All right. So everything that we talked about when it came to these, everything that we've talked about up until this point is not, the things that we're talking about now is not new. Like this, being able to identify these unknowns is not beyond what we've already learned. It's just more intense. It's just a more intuitive approach to these areas like tactical empathy, like listening, like mirroring. Like it's about taking these elements that we've already learned, labeling, summary, taking these elements and then moving them in a particular direction to achieve a result. So it's helping you feel the truth behind the camouflage. So you can note the nonverbal cues and the things that are not as obvious, right? So, at the end of the day, you got to remember that negotiation is more like walking on a tightrope than competing against an opponent. It's about, focusing. When you focus too much on the objective, then you risk not paying attention or being distracted away from the next step. And if a tightrope walker is doing that, and if they're focused on getting to the other side and they're not looking down and focusing on the next step, we know what could happen in that situation. You can fall off. That's the same thing with the negotiation. You can fall off. So you always got to remain focused and concentrate not on the outcome. All you can do is concentrate on the next step. Because check this out, just like with the tightrope walker, if you focus on the next step, and each time you just focus on the next step, the rope is going to lead you where? It's going to lead you to the result. So all you got to focus on is just taking one step at a time, and that's what it's all about. All right, so one of the things that I skipped over last week were 3 types of leverage. So because we're splitting it in 2, I got an opportunity that I can dig into that a little bit more. All right, so leverage is, when you look at the idea or the concept of leverage, it's the ability to inflict loss and withhold gain. Where does your counterpart want to gain and what do they fear losing. Now, the only way that you can get that information is by implementing these tools that we talked about: tactical empathy, listening, mirroring, summaries, labeling. All of that is to draw out information so you can get a clear picture, and so they can get a clear picture of what they want to gain and what their fears are as far as losing. So what really matters is, at the end of the day, not necessarily you being able to control them avoiding pain or moving towards pleasure. It's not important that you actually have the capabilities to do it. What's important is them thinking that you do. It's all about perception. So what really matters in leverage, especially in leverage, is them thinking that you have it. That's why Chris talks about there's always leverage. Like, no matter what the situation is, you're always in a position of leverage. Leverage is essentially an emotional concept, and it can be manufactured whether it exists or if it doesn't. So at the end of the day, if they're talking to you, you have leverage, period. Now, one of the examples that Chris gave, which I thought was a good example, he says if you need to sell your house now, you have less leverage than if you don't have a deadline, right? So that brings it into our wheelhouse, Margaret, when it comes to real estate. When we're talking to sellers, sometimes sellers put themselves in a false sense of leverage. They create leverage against themselves because they don't understand it. That's why they got to lean on us. So he says if you need to sell your house, but you have less leverage than if you don't have a deadline. If you want to sell it but don't have to, you have more leverage. See, that's how leverage works. And if various people are bidding on your house at once, then boom, good for you. You're able to maximize the leverage because you got the attention. You can leverage them against each other. So that's all leverage is about. So now he says there are 3 kinds of leverage: positive, negative, and normative. So positive leverage it's your ability as a negotiator to provide or withhold things that your counterpart wants. So that's all positive leverage is. It's your ability to provide or withhold things that your counterpart wants. And once you create that perception within your counterpart to where they see that you're able to either provide or withhold something that they want, then now you can take advantage of the leverage that you've created. So that's positive leverage. Now, negative leverage, which is what most of us picture when we hear the word leverage. We picture the negative leverage. So negative leverage is the negotiator's ability to make his counterpart suffer, right? It's the ability to inflict pain on the counterpart. And it's typically based on threats, right? So you have negative leverage if you can tell your counterpart, if you don't fulfill your commitment or you don't pay your bill, then I will destroy you, right? That's negative leverage. And if it is true, then again, that's a way that you can utilize, you can manipulate a thing. So now Chris says, as effective negotiators have long known and psychologists have repeatedly proved, potential loss looms larger in the human mind than do similar gains. So what is that saying, Mike? What that's saying is that people will do more, people will be more persuaded and more influenced to avoid a loss than to achieve a gain. So whenever you begin to want to utilize leverage, you want to definitely keep that in mind when it comes to that. Now, what Chris says is that even though that's the case, the best way to find information, the best way to identify and become aware of negative leverage, Chris says, is to find information going outside of the negotiating table and speaking to third parties that know your counterpart. The most effective method is to gather it from interactions with your counterpart. So what Chris is saying is that there are options when it comes to getting the information to see what areas of leverage that you have One of them is going to talk to people that know the counterpart. But the best, most effective one is being able to identify the leverage through your personal interactions with the counterpart. So with that said, he gives us a word of warning. He says he does not believe in making direct threats as it relates to negative leverage. He's extremely careful with even subtle ones. Threats can be like nuclear bombs. There will be a toxic residue that will be difficult to clean up. You have to handle the potential of negative consequences with care, or you will hurt yourself and poison or blow up the whole process. So again, it's not about winners and it's not about losers. It's about getting it done. And threats, direct threats, can put the negotiation in jeopardy if not handled with care. So it doesn't matter which side handles it. It has to be handled. Okay, I mean, because if you shove your negative leverage down your counterpart's throat, it might be perceived as if you're taking away their autonomy. And people will often sooner die than give up their autonomy. Jim Camp, what he calls autonomy in his book, Start With No, is people losing their ability to say no, losing their veto power. People will often sooner die than give up their veto power, the ability to say no. So, and what may really happen in the negotiation is they begin to act irrationally, and that will definitely kill the negotiation when the other side begins to act irrationally. A more subtle technique is to label the negative leverage and thereby make it clear without attacking. Some sentences that he gave us were like, it seems like you strongly value the fact that you've always paid on time. Or it seems like you don't care what position you're leaving me in can really open up the negotiation process. So you're not threatening them. What you're doing is that you're labeling the negative leverage that they're trying to use, and you're positioning it in their mind as if you may take that leverage and use it in such a way. So that's negative leverage. All right, the last form of leverage is normative leverage. And that's where every person has a set of rules and a moral framework. Normative leverage is using the other party's norms and standards to advance your position. Again, how are you going to find it out? How are you going to find out, what they're trying to gain? How are you going to find out what they're wanting to avoid losing? How are you going to find out what their rules and their standards are? By the things that we've already talked about. By listening, by labeling, by summaries, by all these other things. Again, negotiation is about getting as much information out of them as you can. So now, if you can show inconsistencies between their beliefs and their actions, you have normative leverage. No one likes to look like a hypocrite. So if you can create this atmosphere of hypocrisy in your counterpart, then there's now an area that you can maneuver to, again, use leverage against them, right? So now, discovering the black swans that give you normative valuation can be as easy as asking what your counterpart believes in and then begin to listen openly. You want to see what language they speak and speak it back to them. So again, it's just an area or a way of getting to know them. Now, one of the areas in this part of the chapter, it gets into religion. So Chris says in any negotiation, but especially in a tense one like tense negotiation, it's not how well you speak, but how well you listen that determines your success. Understanding the other is a precondition to be able to speak persuasively and develop options, right? Options that resonate for them. There is the visible negotiation, then all the things that are hidden under the surface, the secret negotiation space. And that's where the black swans dwell. They dwell in that area that is not visible, that is found in the not so obvious. So access to this hidden space often comes through understanding the other side's worldview, their reason for being, their religion. So indeed, digging into your counterpart's religion, sometimes involving God, but not always, inherently implies moving beyond the negotiating table and into the life, emotional, and otherwise of your counterpart, getting into that deeper engagement, that deeper interaction. Now, I can imagine that can be gotten into a negotiation with a guy, and I'm asking for something that's, it's probably going to be difficult for him to say yes to me about it. Well, I've never met him. All I've done is sent one email to him. So for me to get into a deeper level with this guy, there's a sense of discomfort, but guess what? It doesn't matter how I feel. If I want to be effective in what I'm trying to achieve, then I know it's going to have to be done. So you got to push past your feelings. And if we apply the things that Chris gives us in this book, then we shouldn't have anything to worry about. We just got to become better skilled at it. So once you've understood your counterpart's worldview, you can build influence. Because remember, people are influenced by the things that already influence them. One of the scenarios that Chris gives in the book deals with a veteran named Watson. What he says is that Watson told us he was a veteran and veterans had rules. This is the kind of music you want to hear as it provides normative leverage. And this is a scenario where a veteran was threatened. He went down to Washington, D.C., went into the memorial pool and threatened to set off a bomb. Well, and he had his reasons. Like some people will look at him and say, oh, man, this dude was just crazy, flipped out. But in reality, to walk him off the ledge, to walk the guy off the ledge and get him to surrender, they had to use the fact that as a veteran, there are rules you abide by when you're in the armed services, and they had to reframe this situation and put it in terms of him going against his own rules, his rules that he stands by. So that's the example that they used. So by positioning demands within the worldview your counterpart uses to make decisions, you show them respect, and that gets you attention and results. So again, it's about operating within their world. Knowing your counterpart's religion is more than just gaining normative leverage per se, whether it's gaining a holistic understanding of your counterpart's worldview. So, if you guys don't have, if you don't have any other takeaways from this time together, it's gotta be that whatever you do is not about you. In a negotiation, you have to completely frame the negotiation around understanding and trying to get on the inside, get into the world of the person that you're going to be dealing with. You gotta do that. Okay, so last week we talked about the similarity principle. So you can check that part out. We talked about the power of hopes and dreams last week as well. We also talked about religion being a reason, or we talked about reasons, using reasons as a way to get to certain results. All right. Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about last week was when we consider people being crazy, right? So a lot of times when we consider people being fanatics or people doing crazy things, if we directly jump into labeling it as, oh, they're doing it because they're crazy, then we've immediately stopped our subconscious mind to go deeper, to force ourselves to go deeper, because we've already come to the conclusion. That's why coming to conclusions, assumptions, prejudgments, all of those are like cyanide in a negotiation. Because remember, the black swans are found in that hidden space of the negotiation. So you got to keep an open mind. It's not human nature to embrace the unknown. We know that. It scares us. It sounds like what I said earlier about our quote. When we are confronted by it, we ignore it, we run away, or we label it in ways that allow us to dismiss it. In negotiations, that label most often takes the form of the statement, they're crazy. All right. One of the examples that Chris uses, another example is that, he's highly critical of some of the implementation of America's hostage negotiation policy, where America says that they don't negotiate with people that we refer as terrorists, including the Taliban, ISIS, things like that. So he says the rationale for this non-engagement is summarized. There's a journalist, Peter Bergen, in CNN's National Security, and he said the reason that America should not negotiate with extremists or terrorists is negotiations with religious fanatics who have delusions of grandeur generally do not go well. So see, he's already jumped to the conclusion people their rationale around doing what they're doing. Now, the alternative, we've chosen to not understand their religion, their fanaticism, their delusions. Instead of negotiations that don't go well, we shrug our shoulders and say they're crazy. So what Chris is saying is that pretty much what I said. He's already jumped to the conclusion that they're fanatics, they're delusional, and hasn't taken the time to determine where the fanaticism is coming from, where the delusion is coming from, to again be able to find that positive, that negative, or that normative leverage and use it as a tool to get to your result, right? So Chris is against the American policy of negotiating. All right, so understanding such things is the best way to discover the other side's vulnerabilities and wants and thereby gain influence. You can't get that stuff unless you talk. All right. Now, the moment when we're most ready to throw our hands up and declare they're crazy is often the best moment for discovering black swans, the kind of black swans that transform a negotiation. It is when we hear or see something that doesn't make sense, something crazy, that a crucial fork in the road is presented. You got to push forward even more forcibly in that direction, which we initially can't process, or take the other path, the 1-2 guaranteed failure, in which we will tell ourselves that the negotiation was useless anyway. So that's just the excuse. So what Chris is saying is that when you get to that point where it's not making sense, you got two areas that you can go. You can go in the direction of discomfort, pushing further, deeper understanding, or you can take the easy route and just throw your hands up and say, man, they was crazy, the negotiation wasn't going to pan out no way, and just walk away. Well, what I'm encouraging you to do is choose the former and press through, because there's gold on the other side of them hills, is all I'm saying. All right, so there's a couple of mistakes that typically fanatical people, when they begin to do things crazy, there's a lot of times it's driven by certain mistakes. One of them is they're ill-informed. Because they're asking for something crazy, they don't have the right information or enough of the right information. So often the other side is acting on bad information, and when people have bad information, they make bad choices. There's a great computer industry term that garbage in, garbage out, right? GIGO. If garbage going in, bad information going in, bad output, bad choices. Now, we can take this past just negotiating. When it comes to our buyer clients, when it comes to our seller clients, when it comes to them not moving in the direction that we feel will be in their best interest, and them taking a stance against something, and we think, man, they're just being crazy. It's not because they're being crazy. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we haven't properly given them the information that they can best utilize to make a better decision. So we got to look at it differently. Let's see. I don't need to do that. All right. The second mistake is that they are constrained. So the first one is they're ill-informed, they don't have enough information. The second mistake is that there are things out of their control that's forcing them in this particular direction. In any negotiation where your counterpart is acting wildly, there exists a distinct possibility that they have things they can't do but aren't eager to reveal. Such constraints can make the sanest counterpart seem irrational. The other side might not be able to do something because of legal advice or because of promises already made, or even to avoid setting a precedent. So there may be some other dynamics in the background that your counterpart doesn't quite want to reveal, but that's forcing them to look like they're behaving irrationally. So that's the second mistake. First mistake is they're ill-informed. Second mistake is they're constrained. The third mistake is they have other interests, right? And this one can be just as critical as the other two. What them having other interests looks like is there's hidden interests, right? The presence of hidden interests aren't as rare as you might think. Your counterpart will often reject offers for reasons that have nothing to do with their merits, right? An example that he gives is a client may put off buying your product so that their calendar year closes before the invoice hits, increasing his chance for a promotion. Or an employee might quit in the middle of a career-making project just before bonus season because he or she has learned that colleagues are making more money. For that employee, fairness is as much an interest as money. So these are just examples of people having hidden interest, and because of that hidden interest, makes them look like they're being crazy. They're doing crazy stuff. For the most part, the bulk of humanity is rational, right? We just behave irrationally because there are things that trigger it, okay? As negotiators, we gotta believe that unless a person has a true mental disease or illness, that 99.5% of the population is rational, has a rational mind. It's just other things that trigger them to be irrational. All right? So whatever the specifics of the situation, crazy people are not acting irrationally. They are simply complying with needs and desires that you don't yet understand. What the world looks like to them based on their own set of rules. Your job is to bring these rules, bring these black swans to the light. And to effectively do it, you got to make sure that you remain in the right headspace, that you cannot prejudge. All right, so now, black swans are incredibly hard to uncover. If you're not literally at the table, no matter how much research you do, there's just some information that you are not going to find out unless you sit face to face, belly to belly, build rapport with them. It is very difficult to find black swans with email or for the simple reason that even if you knock your counterpart off their moorings with great labels and calibrated questions, email gives them too much time to think and recenter themselves to avoid revealing too much. In addition, email doesn't allow for tone of voice effects, and it doesn't let you read the nonverbal parts of your counterpart's response, right? And he tells us to remember the 70-38-55, right? 7% of communication is the words, 38% is the tone, and 55% is the body language. All right, so he says, observe unguarded moments. While you have to get FaceTime, formal business meetings, structured encounters, and planned negotiating sessions are often the least revealing kinds of FaceTime, because these are the moments when people are at their most guarded, right? So he says, formal business meetings, structured encounters, planned negotiating sessions. They're often the least revealing kind of FaceTime. Your counterpart is guarded. They're prepared. So hunting for black swans is effective during unguarded moments, at the fringes, whether at meals or the brief moments of relaxation before or after formal interactions, right? So even if you are engaging, you guys are meeting to really hash it out, that little bit of time of introductions and shaking hands and pleasantries before it officially gets started is the best way, the best time to hunt for black swans. During typical business meetings, the first few minutes before you actually get down to business and the last few minutes as everyone is leaving often tell you more about the other side than anything in between. That's why reporters have a credo to never turn off their recorders. You always get the best stuff at the beginning and at the end of an interview. Chris also says pay close attention to your counterpart during interruptions, odd exchanges, or anything that interrupts the flow. So if you're in a meeting with your counterpart and then something interrupts the flow, somebody breaks rank, people's facades crack just a little. Like somebody does, if you're meeting with somebody and somebody comes in and does something that's out of the ordinary, you want to pay attention to your counterpart to see how they respond. Because simply noticing the cracks in their face and how others respond verbally and non-verbally can reveal a gold mine, is what he says. What doesn't make sense, there's sense to be made. Or he says when it doesn't make sense, there's sense to be made. So now there's a portion of the chapter where he goes into overcoming fear and learning to get what you want out of life. Says people generally fear conflict. That is true. So they avoid useful arguments out of fear that the tone will escalate into personal attacks they cannot handle. People in close relationships often avoid making their own interests known and instead compromise across the board to avoid being perceived as greedy or self-interested. They fold, they grow bitter, and they grow apart. So I think this is the last area of the book. And this is the area of the book where Chris gives his final statements, his final sense of encouragement and empowerment to inspire you to move forward in your growth of negotiation. Because he understands that we could have better lives. For the most part, what really stops effective negotiators is fear. And whether we're talking about in business or whether we're talking about in our personal lives, fear is creating or designing a quality of life that we really don't want. So he really sums it up with this portion of the chapter around fear. He says, except for a few naturals, everyone hates negotiation at first. Your hands sweat, your fight or flight kicks in with a strong emphasis on flight, and your thoughts trip drunkenly over themselves. The natural first impulse for most of us is to chicken out, throw in the towel, and run. The mere idea of tossing out an extreme anchor is traumatic. That's why wimp-win deals are the norm in the kitchen and in the boardroom. But stop and think about that. Are we really afraid of the guy across the table? I can promise you that with very few exceptions, he's not going to reach across and slug you in the face. So it says, no, our sweaty palms are just an expression of the physiological fear, a few trigger-happy neurons firing because of something more base, our innate human desire to get along with other members of the tribe. So what Chris says is that it's all fueled, all the fear, all the discomfort, all of it is fueled by our basic innate human desire that we just all want to get along. Like, remember Rodney Harris said, "Can't we all just get along?" That's all he wanted, right? So he take them clubs to the head just so we can all get along. Well, that's what Chris is saying. What drives why we don't do it? It's not the guy across the table who scares us. It's conflict. We're afraid of conflict. If you're going to be great at anything, a great negotiator, a great manager, a great husband, a great wife, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to embrace conflict and navigate with empathy. You're going to have to ignore that little genie who's telling you to give up, to just get along, as well as that other genie who's telling you to lash out and yell. You got to ignore both of them if you're ever going to be great in any of those areas. You're going to have to embrace regular, thoughtful conflict as the basis of effective negotiation and of life, right? Now he says, remember that our emphasis throughout the book is that the adversary is the situation, and that the person that you appear to be in conflict with is actually your partner. What he's saying is that your partner is not the problem is the problem, right? That's what he's saying. So more than a little research has shown that genuine, honest conflict between people over their goals actually helps energize the problem-solving process in a collaborative way. Skilled negotiators have a talent for using conflict to keep the negotiation going without stumbling into a personal battle, right? So he's saying using the conflict to create a problem-solving environment to help, so everybody can bring to the table the solution, because that's all that matters. Pushing hard for what you believe is not selfish, is not bullying, it is not just helping you. So even though you feel like this is what I believe, this is what I believe I want, you going for that is not you being a bully, it's not you pressing people, it's not any of those narratives that we give ourselves. With the style of negotiation taught in the book, an information-obsessed, empathetic search for the best possible deal, you are trying to uncover value, period. Not to strong-arm or to humiliate. When you ask calibrated questions, yes, you are leading your counterpart to your goals, but you are also leading them to examine and articulate what they want and why and how they can achieve it. You are demanding creativity of them and therefore pushing them toward a collaborative solution. So that's how we got to think of it. We can't think of it that we're strong-arming. We can't think of it that we're manipulating. We got to think of us approaching it this way and getting this result is the best thing for everybody, right? So this is what he leaves us with. One request, the last request that Chris gives us in his book. whether it's in the office or avoid honest, clear conflict. It bears to be repeated. This is his one request, whether it's in the office or around the family dinner table, whether it's with a client, a listing appointment, a buyer consultation, working with a tenant, negotiating an offer, negotiating a commission split, determining what broker you want to go with, whatever it is. Don't avoid honest, clear conflict. It will get you the best car price, the highest salary, and the largest donation. It will also save your marriage, your friendship, and your family. One can only be an exceptional negotiator and a great person by both listening and speaking clearly and empathetically, by treating counterparts and oneself with dignity and respect. And most of us all by being honest about what one wants and what one can and cannot do. You see, it's all, can you see how clear the communication? He's just talking about the best results come from how effective we can clearly communicate. It's all communication. Every negotiation, every conversation, every moment of life is a series of small conflicts that, managed well, can rise to creative beauty. Embrace them. Embrace the conflict. All right, so that's it. So, Margaret, you're going to embrace the conflict?
Yes, I will embrace the conflict.
Embrace the conflict. Even when your stomach hurts.
Yeah, I think it might be very uncomfortable because it seems I don't want to come off mean, but it is what it is. They're gonna be like, "That's a mean Margaret." Here I am.
You don't want to stay in good terms. You don't want to ruffle the waters, but none of us do. None of us like that feeling, Margaret. It ain't just you. It ain't just you. It's just something we got to do, though. All right?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it. That's it for today. So that wraps up part 2 of working through the black swans and unknowns. So we're done with chapter 10. Next week, we are going to look at what's called the one sheet. And we're going to build that out, wrap up everything, and close the session out. Close the series out on next week. So, any feedback, any takeaways, Margaret, you want to share with the people before we wrap up?
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the practice aspect. Because these are so good, I do not want to not put them in practice and it just be like another book, and we go on to the next one. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. I know you suggested maybe a Facebook group or me actually saying, okay, teach it to someone else. But I'm still trying to get that together in my head. But I want to put in practice.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think there are some areas right now that you're working on where you're utilizing some of the concepts, huh?
Yeah. Because I am doing a one sheet. And I guess I am putting it in practice. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah, so I mean, what you're gonna find is like those recommendations that I gave you as far as, you know, teaching somebody else to help it further, to have it further instill into your mind and your conscious, your subconscious. The Facebook, you know, those are areas to further expose you to it. Right? And as you continue to be exposed to it, as you continue to work that muscle, then it's going to continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger for you. The reality is that because of the business that you are in and the business that I am in, the things and the techniques that he teaches us, we're going to be using this stuff a lot, right? And it's going to come organically. Like, it's not that we're going to have to force these situations to happen. Like, it's going to come just through us being realtors and just through us being business owners. You understand what I'm saying? So for you, Margaret, I think it's just a matter of having a consistent diet in addition to the organic situations and scenarios, but having a consistent diet of other areas, like the Facebook group or like the teaching the people as well, to further press it down on the inside of you. That makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. All right, awesome. All right, well, with that being said, we're gonna wrap up the Create Your New Life for today. Put on our Mind Through Tough Time hat so we can begin that broadcast here shortly in about an hour or so. So let me gear up my music. Oh, you know what? I almost jumped the gun again. I always like to end with a recap of what I began with, which is our agents are able to take advantage of 1 hour of seed credit by doing these 4 items that we show on the presentation. So Margaret's got another hour of education credit. Yay, Margaret! All right, again, we hands-on at Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm. Our secret sauce is one-on-one coaching being included in what we offer to the agent members. And it's true coaching, meaning there are people that are not members of Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm actually pay for the coaching that our agents don't have to pay for. So if you're out there, you're with a broker, you're trying to do this business, you're not getting results, hey, maybe negotiation is one of those things that you wish you had someone to hold your hand and partner with you to help you become a negotiator. Well, all of that is available and accessible to you. So click on the link. Let's schedule an online or in-person company introduction, and you can learn more. Matter of fact, we even offer free one-on-one coaching sessions. So if you want one of those as a way to get a taste of what we talk about when we're talking about this one-on-one coaching, again, click on the link, and you can schedule that through that appointment scheduling page that's on the screen. And finally, the best way to we're always learning and growing and improving and operating in the most productive manner, right? That's our value. Well, as we continue to do that, we get a lot of content, we get a lot of information, and if we didn't have any outlets to deliver it to the world, then our heads would blow up. So our social media outlets are where we send great relevant data, great relevant information and experiences that you can see who we are as a real estate company, who I am as a person, as CEO, as broker. You can also see our co-founder, Larry W. Brooks, him and his life, and some of the other team members. We're all on there. But specifically, you can follow us on these that I have on the screen. All right, so with that being said, that is it for today. Let me get my music going, make sure I'm turned up loud so we can so we can get out of here, baby. We are gone. Another one in the book. Had a great session. We finished up our conversation about black swans and unknowns, revealing, getting those breakthroughs in the negotiation because we revealed those unknowns. We talked about continuing to learn and improve and why it's so important for Brooks & Davis. Showed you how we distribute our leads and how we use them to become better at conversion. And look, we got 2 events that we talked about earlier. Our Tough Times, Mastermind Through Tough Times, Tuesdays at 2:30. And we got a great live webinar, May 12th. Reserve your seats. The link's in the description. Take advantage of it. Home buying, debt elimination, preserving your legacy, all those things will be addressed from our experts for that event. With that being said, Michael G. Davis, broker, CEO, Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm, coaching you into the cosmos. It's time to take off, baby. Y'all have a great week. Hello.